Yes, ma'am. Hi everyone. Good evening.
Yep.
Welcome to the SIG Clinical Aphasiology Indian Speech and Hearing Association Endeavors Aphasia Awareness Month Education Webinar. So I welcome you all. I'm happy to have students, faculty representing interesting in aphasiology who have joined us today. So we have our esteemed President of Indian Speech and Hearing Association, Dr. Krishna sir. We have our EC of Physiology, Dr. Krishnan Gopi and Dr. Sunil and Amulya, our research associate. We have our esteemed speaker, Professor Pauranik sir with us. And we have all the support from EC Isha, Indian Academy of Neurology, Aphasiology, and Indian Foundation of Neuro Rehab, Speech Language Pathology, Neuro Rehabilitation Professionals. So with this, I welcome you all to this aphasia clinical assessment session. So we all know the stroke is a main cause which can be disabling communication, language, cognitive abilities of the person. And post-stroke aphasia is more evident, whereas there are other neurological conditions which can impair person's language, reading, writing, understanding, speaking modalities, and in general communicative aspects, and that requires early identification and intervention. So we SIG Aphasiology, we have a mission and a vision of helping person with aphasia and their family members, educate professionals, enable them to equip with good tools and intervention best practices in Indian bilingual aphasiology with interdisciplinary teamwork. So we all know what is aphasia. Now coming to the assessment, that we need to have adequate tools and multi-modality assessment of cognition, linguistic and communicative approaches so that we can plan, execute and help the person with aphasia communicate when he is at bedside in the hospital in acute care setting, or when he or she is returning to the home after discharge, and enabling him or her to go back as a student or as a homemaker, as a teacher or as an accountant, whatever he earlier or she earlier was working as. So it is important that we need to help empower person with aphasia, and that's a mission and vision, and we have many other aspects to cover in aphasiology SIG. So I welcome Professor Y. Krishna, professor at Manipal University. He's a pioneering person who has supported SIG aphasiology coming in conception and then backed all of our endeavors. So I would request him to give his opening remarks.
Yeah. Thank you, Sonali, and good evening and greetings of the day for all the participants of today's session. It's a good event that we are celebrating from Isha side through our SIG of physiology. Uh, the month is known for aphasia, okay, awareness aspect of it. So increase the awareness. Though we have professionals, we have been doing it. There's a lot of updates that are happening from every now and then, and it's time. It's always need for us to update with the current developments which is happening. Furthermore, it is even more important to understand from our professional team members, who are part of rehabilitation, part of assessment in these group of individuals. So I'm really happy and I thank Dr. Pauranik for accepting our invitation and joining this session to share his thoughts. I also thank all Sonali and his and her team members in organizing these events. This is the second part of the event of this awareness month. The first event was given by Mr. Wasim, moderated by Dr. Gopi, and we have few more lined up in the things to come up. So without taking much time, I think it's we are going to have a good learning information from Dr. Pauranik. I once again welcome you, sir, for the event. Thank you, one and all.
Thank you so much, sir, for all your support and all your encouragement in SIG Aphaseology endeavors. And from the members, I thank you for that. I take it forward ahead. I would like to introduce our speaker. Are my slides visible?
Yeah, visible, yes.
So Professor Pauranik sir is a pioneering neurologist and aphasiologist. He has expert committee, Indian Academy of Neurology subsection founded, and he always have made an effort that speech pathologists are involved in aphasiology education, intervention in acute care setting, and as well as clinical settings in the OPD also. He has trained many neurologists, speech pathologists. He has even mentored Dr. Pinky Singh, who is a speech pathologist in a ILP, and which is a evidence-based practice rehabilitation of aphasia. He is importantly founder and of neuroscience of aphasia neurocare at Indore. He has been active in teaching education and advocacy in humanities in medical education and practice. He has authored many books. He's author of Hindi Aphasia Battery. He has worked with Professor Pauranik sir, Professor Bhatnagar sir, and with many different linguists, and has many uh, international publications to his credits. And also he always tries working on the research, development of therapeutic and assessment batteries in aphasia and related disorders. I welcome Professor Pauranik sir. We look forward to listening to your clinically oriented, encouraging, enlightening lecture.
Thank you very much for organizing this event. Thank you for inviting me, and thank you for saying so many kind words as a part of introduction. My congratulations to Isha, particularly the SIG on aphasiology. I'm glad that I have been associated with this SIG right from its inception, and it is good to see many activities coming out of this SIG. And it is also good to see that the Indian Academy of Neurology and Isha are working together, and another organization, Indian Federation of Neurorehabilitation, and we also have a subsection of Indian rehabilitation in IEA, and also, so all these organizations are working in tandem, they are working in unison. So these are good signs. However, these developments have not come a day too soon. So we have a lot to work. We have miles to go ahead. In our country, the awareness for aphasia is low. Awareness and knowledge about aphasia is low, and that's why this month becomes very, very important for us. However, our efforts will continue beyond that all year around. Our efforts will go on. So awareness and knowledge about aphasia in general public, in medical professionals, in rehabilitation professionals, in SLPs, in occupation therapists. So there are so many professionals, clinical psychologists, linguists, all of them need to be made aware and made more knowledgeable about aphasia. So with this brief introduction, I think I will begin sharing my screen. Is my screen visible?
Yet to come, sir.
I think how to go for sharing.
Amulya, you can help.
The host will have to do something because the command is not in my hand.
Amulya, you can probably help.
To change the presenter, make me a presenter.
Sir, you are already there as a presenter, sir. We have already made it.
Okay. Then my screen
there is
Sure.
orange color button and the arrow there. Click on that and share your screen, sir.
No, I am not. There is no, there is orange button. Yeah. Hmm.
And show screen will come there.
No.
Sir, have you logged in through some other name? Aditi Mazumdar.
I think by mistake I made her the presenter.
Sir, no, sir. You have to change. 1 minute, sir.
Uh,
Yes, sir. Now I have made you presenter, sir. Can I try it once now?
hmm.
Yes, sir. Now we are able to see your screen.
Fine. And now it is in the slideshow mode, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So the aphasia city is full of traffic jams. The words and the sounds and the sentences and the discourse, everything is under a jam. So let us see how we analyze this traffic jam and how we work to reduce this traffic jam in the brain. Who does aphasia assessment? Naturally, speech language pathologist, but also a few more clinicians, which includes predominantly neurologists and to a lesser extent neurosurgeon, an internist, a psychiatrist, a pediatrician, and then clinical neuropsychologist and a clinical linguist. We won't call them so much of a clinician. And finally, in the current era of patients being also considered as part of research team, patients also being considered as part of a partner in the research. So caregivers and significant others can also do some degree of assessment, and then we can have some trained volunteers or assistants. So there are so many people who will do aphasia assessment. I think you all know when to suspect aphasia. Naturally, in every case of a stroke, because we know that about 25 to 30% of survivors, particularly those who have had a lesion in the left hemisphere with mainly cortical but sometimes subcortical lesions, you will also suspect aphasia in traumatic brain injury, in dementias, including Alzheimer's in frontotemporal, and any other cerebral pathology for that matter. It could be tumor, infections, meningoencephalitis, so any brain damage. The developmental disorders of the brain are not per se a definition of aphasia. Aphasia is an acquired disorder. So we know that there are many developmental disorders since early childhood in which speech and language functions may be affected or affected with or without other cognitive functions. So that is not the subject today. The assessment of aphasia begins with the history. And this is particularly for my residents in neurology. I tell them that, and of course it applies to SLPs also. As soon as the patient comes, you know that he has been referred to you by a clinician or a neurologist, and they already have diagnosed him as having aphasia. Sometimes their diagnosis may be wrong also. So you have to first listen, let the patient and caregiver speak out. Keep asking, what are your problems? What are your difficulties? Encourage them to speak on and on and on and give them enough time. Keep your ears open or antennas active. There is a saying about clinical physical examination that your eyes see only what that your mind knows. This is what we teach our residents about the reflexes and physical science. To paraphrase that sentence, I will say your ears listen only that which your mind knows. Having done the enough of listening and making some rough notes, then is the time to ask some leading questions. And when do you ask leading question? If your checklist of probable symptom has not been totally ticked off, then you start asking leading questions. So these are the checklists. And most of the occasion, if you give enough time to the patient and caregiver, they will come out with many of these symptoms. Patient is not talking at all, mutism. He is having difficulty in speaking, reduced rate of talking, non-fluency. He is groping for word, not finding the words, getting struck up with words. He may be having anomia. The attendant will say, sir, he speaks a word different from the intended one, and semantic paraphasia, and sometimes the family member would say that he is talking in a language which we just do not understand. It is all jumbled up, and then you would think it could be semantic jargon. Or the family members will say he's uttering a sound which is totally not recognizable. It could be phonemic jargon, it could be semantic jargon, and sometimes the speech output may be restricted to a single CV recurring utterance, consonant vowel recurring utterance, or there may be circumlocution. The family members will give the history that he is replacing the target word with a correct but a roundabout description, or there may be perseveration, dysarthria, echolalia, apraxia of speech, fluent aphasia, defective auditory comprehension, and many other things. So a lot can be learned from history taking alone. Some of the family members will give the history of the patient. Herself may give a history that I have lost my interest in reading. I hold the newspaper. I'm not sure I'm reading. I'm not sure I'm understanding. Some patients will be brought to you with the complaint that this fellow has reduced memory. It may not be reduced memory. It may not be amnesia. It may be anomia. It may be paraphasia. Some people will be brought that there's something wrong with the hearing. So they will go to a audiologist, and some people will go to the ophthalmologist that he is not able to read. So these are the many ways in which the history symptomatology goes on. While you are listening to all these points in the history, you are making your rough notes and you are saying, I am going to examine this fellow in slightly more detail for this aspect. I'm going to probe this aspect in slightly more detail because I have got this history. So history is a first step, is a prerequisite before you do a formal assessment. Just listen to the family. A brief clinical assessment of aphasia can be accomplished in the office or a bedside, particularly for neurologists in 5 to 10 minutes. For you people, 5 to 10 minutes may be okay to build a rapport or maybe to say hello on the first visit. But of course, you are expected to devote a much more longer time. How much detail? It should be detailed. There should be no shortcuts in aphasia assessment. You need time. There are no shortcuts. There is no substitute for time. And if there are no shortcuts, then how do you do it? You need expertise, you need experience. A comprehensive profiling is very necessary for proper and complete diagnosis and therapeutic planning. So SLPs are primarily suited for this purpose, but we exhort our neurology colleagues to also contribute as much as they can, and we also request our clinical neuropsychology colleagues to also give their input. So if a clinician, these tips are mainly for a neurologist, but they apply to a busy SLP also. So you should always carry or keep a set of cards with pictures of objects, actions, scenes, etc. And nowadays in the current era of digital technology, all those material can be carried on a desktop or a laptop or a smartphone. At the same time, it is necessary to carry a scoring sheet wherein the target answers are pre-printed in a tabular format, and there is another blank column in which the patient's responses will be filled up. So this was the target answer, this was the picture to be named, and this was the patient's response. If you keep this pre-printed scoring sheet, it will save your time. It is also important to save audio and video recordings, and if you have office staff available, you can request them to type the script. You can train a clinical assistant to do a basic simple assessment. You can train a caregiver of a person with aphasia for follow-up assessment. So these are the tips for busy clinician. You also pay attention to the educational status, working status, language proficiencies, and handedness. So there is a handedness questionnaire. I will not go into the detail. And there are so many batteries for the assessment. But before I go or I name the standard batteries which are already well known to you people, I will say a few words about ad hoc. What do you mean by ad hoc? Ad hoc means non-standardized and non-validated test batteries. And such assessment is sometimes okay, not always okay. Sometimes okay, particularly if you are away from your office, you are in a field situation, or you are in a shortened situation. Sometimes non-formal and non-standardized tests can be given, but they will always remain inferior particularly for the purpose of publication and research and comprehensive planning of an intensive therapy, we need properly tested batteries. So all these formal standardized batteries have to be rigorously proven to be effective, to be validated. What do you mean by validated? The validation means the test battery really assesses the thing which it claims, that we are going to assess this, this, and this, and they are based on many theoretical principles. I will not go into the details. So this protocol has to be uniform. The rules and methods of administrations should be laid out explicitly before the testing, precisely, unambiguously, in an a priori manner, and it has been rigorously vetted on normative data from the large number of representative population, which includes healthy volunteers and which also includes persons suffering with language and communication disorders. So we begin with a very brief screening tool. So this was a paper published last year in the supplement of Annals of Indian Academy of Neurology in 2019, a screening tool to detect stroke aphasia, and it is an adaptation of French-eye aphasia screening test, FAST, which is very well known, very popular, very standardized from UK, and this has been done in Indian context. And the picture on the left is from the UK version. The picture on the right is the Indianized version of French-eye aphasia screening test. And then we have some questions based upon these pictures, and a few more pictures, and the total score is 30. If the person is scoring less than 27, there is something wrong with the speech and communication. At Indore, we have developed Hindi aphasia screening Indore test. There are different images, and I will share the link later on. So those are the stroke assessment test of screening nature. There is one more screening test for neurologists. Neurologists are always in a hurry to examine an acute case of stroke, particularly whether he or she has come in a therapeutic window for thrombolysis and thrombectomy. You know, the therapeutic window is 3 hours to 4.5 hours for intravenous thrombolysis, and 6 hours and sometimes more than 6 hours for mechanical thrombectomy. So even the French-eye aphasia screening is a bit longer. We need ultra short bedside assessment of aphasia in ICU, so that the patient can be triaged immediately for neuroimaging. And we should also remember that there can be stroke mimics. We should not miss them. So what do we do in ICU? We talk to the patient, we listen them, we look for articulation, we look for word finding, and we look for improper sentences. If there is an incomplete description, use of wrong words, we ask him to repeat a few uncommon and slightly difficult phrases to repeat. We ask him to obey a couple of slightly unusual two-step commands. So these are all ad hoc, non-formal, non-standardized assessment. We ask them to name a few uncommon objects around in the room, in the ICU, or you show them some images in your smartphone. And this is the part of NIH stroke scale, National Institute of Health stroke, NIHSS, National Institute of Stroke scale. And these are the Boston Diagnostic Aphasia Examination paper, and it's an ultra short screening tool. How to do it? If there is nothing wrong, we say 0 mark, no aphasia. If there is a mild to moderate aphasia, there are some obvious changes without significant limitation, 1. If there is a severe aphasia, fragmentary expression, inference is needed when you are talking to the person, then you give 2 marks. And if the person is almost mute and global aphasia, no usable speech, no auditory comprehension, then you give 3. And if the person is comatose and unresponsive, then also give 3 marks. So this is an ultra short test of aphasia screening in ICU, which is in a score ranging from 0 to 3. So you all know that the clinical examination for aphasia is done under following headings, including reading and writing. These are some of the current popular tests and methods for aphasia assessment. On the clinical bedside, as I already hinted, they are unstructured, they are variable. For the screening, I have already told you. When we come to comprehensive examination, the two which are most popular, and we have Indian versions for them, the Boston Diagnostic Aphasia Examination and Western Aphasia Battery. Then there are tests of specific aspects of language. Again, some Indian versions have been adopted for them. Boston naming test for naming, token test for syntactic comprehension, and there are tests for reading and writing. Then we go to more detailed testing, which is particularly based on cognitive neuropsychological approach. And here is one PALPA, psycholinguistic assessment of language processing and aphasia. This is so exhaustive that it can never be administered to a given patient in totality. You pick and choose certain specific tests depending on the profile of that patient. You say, okay, I want to go for this aspect in more detail. Then you choose 2 or 3 or 4 tests out of 100 tests in PALPA. Similarly, there is psycholinguistic abilities of test by Kaplan from Boston, and there is the comprehensive aphasia test by Kattis Feinberg. So these are the tests which are based on cognitive neuropsychological approach. The assessment of functional communication is equally important. So there is the American Speech Hearing Association Functional Assessment, ASHA-FACS, the communication activities of daily living, and then there are many quality of life scales in stroke. Dr. Gopi Krishnan and others have done adaptations in Malayalam and Kannada and Hindi. There are things are available for quality of life scale in stroke in reference to aphasia. Without reference to aphasia, there are different quality of life scales for stroke. And then there are tests for special population like infants and children, for traumatic brain injury, for right hemispheric lesions, for elderly and dementia subjects and multilingual subjects. Similarly, as I was referring to the tests at Indore, so these are some of the tests which we have developed at Indore. How do we assess the severity? Before I go into the details of aphasia assessment, we can make an assessment of severity. Well, it is not necessary to make it right in the beginning. Sometimes, having done the total detailed assessment, you can come back and answer the question, how severe is the aphasia? So French aphasia screening test will give you a score of 30. Lower the score, more severe is the aphasia. Western aphasia battery has aphasia quotient. Higher the score, more severe is the aphasia. NIH stroke scale, 0 is normal and 3 is worse. Boston Diagnostic Aphasia Examination, 0 is very severe and 5 is minimal. So Boston BDA is also easy to remember. NIH stroke scale also easy to remember. French aphasia is also easy to remember. But Western aphasia battery will take a bit longer time when it comes to the overall severity assessment. While we are talking to the patient during history taking, our mind is already going to many things. One of them is articulation. It is better to have audio and video recording. And nowadays, in the current era of technology, we can send these audio files for spectral analysis by special software. I do not know whether SLPs are routinely using these spectral analysis in their day-to-day clinical practice. They are being used mainly for research purpose, but I think their clinical uses will become apparent soon. So how do we assess articulation on the bedside? You should have handy list of words for assessment of dysarthria. They can be ad hoc like they are here, or they can be part of a standardized and validated test battery. There are test batteries for articulation. Please inform me later on if there are ones in Indian languages. So these are some of the popular Hindi words and English words. We call them tongue twisters for the testing of articulation. I will not go into the classification of the types of dysarthria, which is based on site of lesion and example of a disease and what will be the type of speech and what will be the label. The labels are spastic dysarthria, flaccid dysarthria, combination of spastic and flaccid, hypokinetic, hyperkinetic, and ataxic. So you will have to revise this table and it is easy. The most important part of assessment of aphasia is verbal expression. How does the patient talk? What is the fluency? How good is the spoken language content? By what do I mean by good content? It should be adequate, ample. It should be grammatically correct. It should be semantically correct. It should be thematically correct. So to come to those conclusions, we need a good longish verbal expression from the patient by conversation, open-ended questions, narration, personal stories, and picture description. So we can begin with automatized sequences. This is one of the easiest ones. Is my audio audible?
Yes, sir. Can you just increase volume?
No, this is maximum. However, you can read the transcript at the bottom.
He is messing up the sequence. अच्छा कोई बात नहीं, महीनों के नाम याद है? एक साल में 12 महीने होते हैं ना, उनके नाम बोल सकते हो? जनवरी, फरवरी, बोलते जाओ। Even with automatized sequences, he is having difficulty. March, April, May, June, July, August.
Many patients with severe non-fluency will still retain their ability to speak out.
गीत या भजन आता है एक सप्ताह में।
So that was a part of fluency. Then we go to the discourse, and we will pay attention to fluency versus non-fluency. This is the famous cookie theft scene. The only change I have made is in the clothing of the lady, and from Boston Diagnostic Aphasia Examination. These are some of the pictures which have been created by me at Indore. So these are some street scenes, some river scene, some living room scene. And the purpose of these pictures is that they should be culturally appropriate. They should have some narrative to elicit more varied syntax than action picture alone. The events depicted in the frame must be related to one another, and they give an idea about the discourse skill. So what are narratives? Narratives are indicators of linguistic complexity requiring uses of subordinate clause to specify the cause or purpose of a particular action, besides describing the picture. The global skill of understanding and reconstructing a story is closely linked to the development of literacy skills and writing skills. These are pictures which were developed by Subhash Bhatnagar, the Kalidas sitting on the branch and cutting the same branch, the lady with the umbrella and the inverted umbrella. And this was created by Hiya Datta, the lady with the purse and a thief coming up. And we have developed normative data for such type of picture stories. So this is the maximum possible description which can occur from that. And we put them numbering with the stars. The total score is 23. These are the content words. And another picture sequence. So because of the being more sensitive to the gender issues, we have created a lady who is doing the role of a boy for helping this old man. So we can have many type of narrative discourse. And what do we pay attention? We pay attention to content units, number of syllables, number of content units per minute. We look at redundancy index. This is an example of a severe non-fluent aphasia. She was left to a few CV recurring utterances.
आप कोशिश करना इनके नाम बताने की, है ना, जितना बने उतना अपने को बताना है। आप इसका नाम बता सकते हो ये क्या है? अच्छा, और ये क्या है? नहीं आ रहा आपको बोलते? अच्छा, और ये क्या है? There is a perseveration. Same and same response is coming. I am continuing with the same testing. अच्छा, ये बताओ ये क्या है? मालूम है तुमको? इससे क्या करते हैं? हाँ, ये बच्चे उड़ाते हैं आकाश, देखा है तुमने उड़ाते हुए? इसको क्या कहते हैं? बोलो। पतंग, 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 पतंग. The naming is also continued with respect to color naming, with respect to the verbs.
Another non-fluent aphasia with agrammatism.
कितना लिख पाते हैं?
ये
slow speed. This is a typical agrammatic language in which the conjunctions, the prepositions, the auxiliary.
It's a telegraphic language which is using.
Etc. have been deleted. And what we call as telegraphic language. When we go and make a telegram, we want to economize on the words. So the aphasic patients also have to economize on the words. They delete many words without which it is possible to convey the meaning. आप अपनी बीमारी के बारे में बताइए।
First 26 knee.
Now, in many patients with severe non-fluent aphasia, the musical ability is preserved. So this fellow is asked to sing. So it's a hymn from Ramayana, Ramcharitmanas by Tulsidas.
बहुत अच्छा।
Now this is a person with Wernicke's aphasia who is having a fluent jargon speech.
It is a woman, but he's saying बाई की लड़की बनी हुई है। और बताओ
वहां से फिर उसको घर छोड़ दिए उन्हें और यहाँ पर यह सचिव स्तंभ बनेंगे या यज्ञ की
is describing umbrella, but no meaning with that target word.
फिर की लड़की वर्ग की रोकर है रारमी।
वर्ग की रोकर है रारमी is totally phonemic jargon. These sounds do not belong to any of the languages known to this patient. फिर क्या हुआ?
उसका बात वह भाई घर से चली तो पहला इन्हें अर्थ की रोकी थी।
अर्थ की रोकी दे रही।
हाँ या ना तक की जो सचुल है। 1 2 3 4
He's counting the spokes in the umbrella. फिर क्या हुआ?
दिखा क्या भाई फिर का घर से उल्टी बनेगी।
He has captured the point that the umbrella has been turned upside down. फिर क्यों उल्टी क्यों हो गई?
वो उल्टी क्यों सड़ी क्या कही और टोकरे से उसकी और पावर अगाड़े की जो अगले यो सांप भी छोड़ने से उल्टी तो कही
So that was about the verbal expression. Now we come to auditory comprehension, which is tested at single word level by asking the patient to point to pictures, objects, body part, figures, colors. Then we give command and see the command comprehension, 1 step, 2 step, 3 step. Then we give sentences for which we expect an answer in yes or no. And then we narrate a paragraph or a discourse and ask them to listen carefully. And then we ask questions based on that narration. So single words, commands, sentences. So this was a test of auditory comprehension.
कमरे में जो कि मौजूद हैं।
He has been asked to point to the objects in the room.
ध्यान से सुनना। पंखा इस कमरे में पंखा है क्या? ये है, ठीक है। दरवाजा है। खिड़की नहीं है। खिड़की नहीं है। देखिए ध्यान से। अच्छा कोई बात नहीं। कुर्सी है। This is all part of auditory comprehension at one word level.
So auditory comprehension, you can use large number of pictures. In ad hoc batteries, they will be non-standardized, and in formal batteries which have been published in the literature, they would have normative data and standardized pictures. The same fellow who was speaking jargon is in Wernicke's aphasia, his comprehension is also poor.
चित्र देख लो सब ध्यान से, मन में बोलना मत, चुपचाप मन में देख लो, ये देख लो, ये देख लो, ये सब देख लो। अब मैं पूछूं तो आप बताना। अभी मैं बताओ झाड़ किधर है? झाड़
एक तो ये
नहीं मैंने पूछा, जो मैं बोले वो बताओ। बताओ झाड़ है कि नहीं है? ढूंढो।
एक
नहीं ये नहीं है।
दूसरा आदमी ताल सुता
नहीं झाड़ है कि नहीं इसमें? अच्छा चलो छोड़ो, झाड़ नहीं मिला तो मेरे को ये बता दो कि इसमें घड़ी कहाँ है? घड़ी है इस चित्र में?
यार साथ है
घड़ी है ना? हाँ, दिस इज करेक्ट। और मटका किधर है?
वो
ठीक है।
Now the commands can be 1 step, 2 step, and 3 step. So this is the command for
आंखें बंद करो, जीभ बताओ, आंख खोलो, आंख खोलो, बालों पर हाथ लगाओ, आपकी जेब से पेन निकालकर टेबल पर रख दो, आपकी जेब का पेन टेबल पर रख दो, टेबल पर रख दो। He is making mistake.
now a little mistake which clinicians do while testing auditory comprehension and command comprehension. They should not help the patient by imitating or showing the action, and none of the attendants should be permitted.
And this is what they should not do. जीभ बताओ, दांत दिखाओ. Now here the examiner himself is showing the action.
These are yes no questions.
सवाल पूछूंगा जिनका उत्तर आपको हाँ या ना में देना है। क्या हाथी चूहे से छोटा होता है? He is laughing at the question, but will he be able to answer? बताओ, क्या हाथी चूहे से छोटा होता है? बड़ा होता है, तो आपको उत्तर देना है हाँ या ना में, ठीक है? अच्छा बताओ, क्या गर्मियों के दिनों में स्वेटर पहनते हैं? क्या गर्मियों के दिनों में स्वेटर पहनते हैं? स्वेटर ठंड में पहनते हैं। सो यस, तो ही इज नॉट। सवाल पूछूंगा जिनका उत्तर आप।
So these are the type of questions for which you expect a answer in yes or no. Then you give some story and you make questions based on that story. You can do sentence picture matching. There can be 4 sentences and 1 picture, or there can be 4 pictures and 1 sentence to match them. So then we come to repetition, and for repetition you should have the stimuli ready with on your hand and your smartphone. You begin with easy and common and short words, then you go to difficult words, uncommon words, tongue twisters, and then you go to short sentences. In naming, you again choose the objects on the table or pictures or body parts or figures, or you have responsive naming in which you define or describe an object for which there has to be a 1-word answer. And in case of difficulty, you give them hints. The hints can be phonemic, which are sound based. They can be semantic, which are meaning based. And then you also test whether the person is able to reject the wrong answer and accept the correct answer. So look at the body part naming.
Uncommon parts. ये क्या है? ये भुजा है, और यहाँ पे क्या है ऊपर? नहीं, भुजा के ये वाला हिस्सा क्या कहलाता है? इसको जांग कहते हैं क्या? कंधा कहते हैं क्या? कंधा कहते हैं। Another way of testing the naming is to suggest some wrong answers to the patient and to see whether they are able to reject the wrong answers and subsequently able to accept the correct answers out of the given multiple choice. बताइए।
So I think so we can use all these sorts of stimuli which we use for auditory comprehension. The same picture cards can be used for naming, and these are the type of hints we give to the patient. This is circumlocution while testing naming.
इसे क्या कहते हैं? अंग्रेजी में क्या कहते हैं? अपन डॉक्टर लोग पहनते हैं ना डालने के लिए।
This one is the MD medicine doctor.
बताइए इसे क्या कहते हैं? इसको हाँ सर्जन लोग पहनते हैं ऑपरेशन के टाइम पे। क्या है ये? करते हैं। आप कहते हैं क्या है? दोनों एक में है इसमें अभी। हाँ, ये तो एक वाला है। इसको इंग्लिश में क्या कहते हैं या हिंदी में क्या कहते हैं? He is describing the use, and this description is known as circumlocution. Instead of uttering the main word, he is just describing it. लोग कहते हैं
He is not able to accept the correct answer.
ये बताइए ये क्या है? टेबल घूमने के लिए, घूमने के लिए है. In fact, that is a hammock which is used for swinging. तो वर्ब का रिप्लेसमेंट हुआ, पैराफ्रेजिया हुआ है. झूलने की जगह घूमना. ये क्या है? टेबल. In fact, it is chairs. This is also a paraphrasia. ये क्या है? कांटे वाला. क्या चीज होती है कांटे वाली? इसे क्या कहते हैं? हाँ, दिखे होते हैं. सर्कमलोकेशन. ये तो चाबी, ये सही उत्तर था. इसके पहले जो तुम कांटे कांटे वाली चीज बता रहे थे उसको कहते हैं कैक्टस. बोलो. कैक्टस. Again, he is not able to repeat. To grasp the word, and he is uttering it in a wrong manner. बोलो क्या?
He was having features of conduction of aphasia.
Cactus. He knows it. ये कैक्टस है ना? तुम्हें पता है ना क्या है ये? चलो ये बताओ ये क्या है? गोल. ये गोल. ये स्क्वायर. ये स्क्वायर. वेरी गुड. ये हाँ, इस शेप को क्या कहते हैं? आइसक्रीम खाते हैं. आइसक्रीम खाते हैं. वेरी करेक्ट. इट इज अ कोन. बच्चे चूंकि आइसक्रीम कोन में खाते हैं, आंसर इज कोन. लेकिन ये सर्कमलोकेशन है. ही नोज द वर्ड, ही नोज द नॉलेज और द कांसेप्ट इज देयर. और ये क्या है? स्टार. स्टार सही है. ये तीन कलर. तीन कलर कहाँ है? तीन नहीं. एक दो. इट इज अ ट्रायंगल. और उसको मैंने बोला तीन कलर, जबकि वहां रंग नहीं थे. त्रिकोण. बोलो.
He is not able to accept
the grasp the word spoken to him. बोलो त्रिकोण. त्रिकोण. इस चित्र ये क्या है?
So there are many hints which we give, and these foils or distractors cannot be chosen randomly. They cannot be chosen arbitrarily. They are guided by some principles. Principles of semantic similarity, phonological similarity, visual similarity, orthographic similarity, semantic distance, or sometimes no similarities. This is how we choose the distractor. What is a distractor? When there is a one target answer, you give 2 or 3 wrong answers, and those wrong answers cannot be chosen randomly, cannot be chosen arbitrarily. Lot of mind, lot of thinking and theoretical logic goes into that for standardized test. So this was a test. We asked the patient, what is this? The target word in Hindi was juta. Patient had no response. Then I asked him, is it chappal, which is a semantic cue. I asked, is it kutta, which is a phonological cue, because juta and kutta is somewhat similar. Then I asked, is it chuna? The way the chuna is written in Hindi is somewhat similar to and orthographically to juta. So these are some of, and then there was a visual similarity. I asked, is it an instrument for carpenter, because it can resemble an instrument of carpenter. This is how we choose the distractors. I will not go into the details of the tests of reading and writing because the time limit is now approaching. So here we test the discrimination, that is same and different judgment between similar looking letters and words. Then we test pointing to the printed letter and printed word as spoken by the examiner out of multiple choice. Word or non-word judgment. This is very interesting. You give a list of jumbled up words. Half of them are non-words and half of them are words, and the task is, please go on reading carefully and just put a tick. This is a true word, this is not a true word. This is a true word, this is not a true word. And then we test the reading aloud. While we ask the person to do reading aloud, we are not interested whether he is comprehending the meaning or not. That will come under the heading number 5. But in heading number 4, we are interested only in reading aloud. And how do we test reading comprehension? By following written commands, by answering yes/no questions in written format, by filling up the blanks in a sentence, and those blanks have to be filled up by multiple options, answering questions based upon short written stories, not spoken stories, and then reading long text and summarizing it. This is how you test the reading comprehension. So these are same stimuli And similarly, for writing, you ask the person to write his own name and address. Then you ask him to copy, initially copying letters, then copying words, then copying sentences. You can ask him to transliterate from Roman to Devanagari or one script to another. And I have found these tests very useful in diagnosis as well as in therapy. And then we give dictation. The examiner will speak and we expect the person to write. And then the same picture which were used for the verbal expression can be used for written expression, the picture description. Towards the last part, I will briefly touch on pragmatics in aphasia. Pragmatics is defined as the appropriate use of language either to comprehend the ideas or to interact in social situations effectively. The assessment of pragmatics is based on a video record or a real-time conversation. And three types of knowledge are needed for appropriate communication. Linguistic knowledge, which we have tested till now, but what we have not tested till now is knowledge of the objects and events and action. The very fact that the person is sitting in a room or in an office or in a clinic, he should know where he or she is, what are the events occurring, what are the actions occurring, and he should have the social knowledge. Then only he will be able to pragmatically participate in the communication act. And there are some theoretical implications for that. So that was pragmatics. Another aspect is functional communication. In the very beginning, I told you ASHA-FACS, American Speech and Hearing Association functional communication test, and there are many more. These have not become very popular in Indian languages. I would love to know from Gopi and Krishna to know about availability of functional communication tests in Indian languages. And what do we do here? Performance of a patient on a diagnostic test battery of aphasia may not have very high correlation with his or her communication in daily life. Because what we are testing in a standardized battery is an artificial situation. The stimuli are artificial, the way we are testing is artificial, but a person who was scoring quite low on Western aphasia battery or Boston Diagnostic Aphasia Examination, in real life, the family members, the significant others will say, sir, he's not that bad. Today he was not able to do before you, but he's okay in our house, in our situations. So functional communication, there can be discrepancy between what you find in a standardized clinic-based assessment, because the communication involves many quick actions, role playing, give and take, when to pause, when to speak, when to participate, how to respond, how to use gestures. So there are psychometrically valid protocols for assessment of functional communication, which are based on observation of actual interaction. So remember, pragmatics is also based on actual observation. Functional communication is also based on functional communication. But remember, again, they are not always ad hoc. They have to be standardized for research purpose and for therapy purpose. I think I will not speak on bilingualism. All of you know that bilingualism and multilingualism is rather a default situation, and ideally the speech and communication assessment should be done in L1 and L2 both, or maybe L3 sometimes, and they are important. So towards the end, I am afraid some of you might be feeling overwhelmed with these exhaustive protocols. Please do not feel overwhelmed. You need not do all this every time, all too often. Well, this is primarily a job of speech pathologist. This slide I should have changed because originally it was meant for neurologists, but I think it applies to SLPs also to some extent, because you can do it in more than one setting. You can have assistance with the helpers, you can have assistance with digital technology, but it has to be done. So while everything may not be done in every patient, somebody may ask, then why should we know all this? We should know all this for better understanding of the condition of the patient, for better interaction, conversation and feedback with neurologists and interaction between SLP and neurologist. You may like to publish a case report or a case series, or you might be interested in research and aphasia. So even if you are not interested in point number 3 and 4, even for the basic clinical purpose, you must know how much detail is possible. And there are no shortcut. Practice, practice, practice. Like an athlete, like a musician doing riyaz, persons with aphasia and their caregivers are crying. They are demanding our time, our attention, our expertise and efforts. Without will not which we will not be able to help them. We will not be able to rehabilitate them. So registered SLPs are the teamwork is necessary, without which the real work will not be done. Thank you for your kind attention. Thank you. So how do I stop sharing?
The right top
Yeah.
in the sharing panel, you have stop sharing button. It was really extensive and very clinically oriented lecture, sir. From Isha SIG, I would really extend your thanks to you that we could get such enlightening speaker who has encouraged clinicians of speech pathology and other allied health interested in aphasiology that what are the important aspects of clinical testing at bedside, be it a screening that there is presence of aphasia. Like we have some referral tools, we have a screening tools, and then how do you make appropriate referral and assessment of diagnostic test of aphasias which will lead to good and ethically balanced and standard intervention in the best practices of Indian patients. So it was very fruitful. We have some questions for you. Dr. Ajit Shenoy is asking, could you please explain what is the plan of availability of Indian assessment tools for Indian aphasiologists, and if PALPA, indoor aphasia test, discourse tools, what you have mentioned, are there for clinical use? Are they available?
I think other members of the panel will be able to answer this. I can only say that it is heartening to note that many have been developed, many have been standardized and validated. Those which have not been standardized, they are also good. It's a different thing that they have not been published. Which is not published is not good. That is not the dictum always. But I know that the discourse analysis and the pragmatic analysis and the functional communication, speech and language assessment, there are many aspects of for which we need Indian versions. For example, significant others burden or quality of life. I have already told how to assess the awareness and knowledge about aphasia in our different groups. So there are many things for which we need more tools. I think with the advent of this SIG on aphasiology under the auspice of Isha, soon within coming few months we will see more and more tools becoming available in public domain.
Dr. Gopi, could I have your expert comment if you are available now?
Yes, ma'am. Am I audible, by the way?
Yes, sir, you're audible. Go ahead.
Okay. So I'll just read that question. Could be the questions to SIG team. What is the plan for availability of Indian assessment tools? Okay, yeah. So Rajat, as you may be partly aware of it, like, you know, it's actually, and I think today, recently you mentioned to me that, yes, there are many kind of corpuses, several corpuses have been developed, but still not being made available for the clinical and research use. But I think this SIG as well as the AAN, like, sorry, sir, I'm right now not getting that sense. The special interest group, Chandra, sorry, Sonal, am I right? That Academy of Neurology?
Yes, sir. Expert committee group of IN and the CAR, the repository of IFNR and the Isha.
Yeah, expert group on aphasia of under the aegis of Indian Academy of Neurology. one of the driving motives behind the formation of all these things is this particular fact that to make this kind of materials available for free use within the country across the languages. So I think we are still striving to do that, and shortly this is not in a day or two, but in a few months or maybe in a year or two, we will be able to make some significant contributions to that effect. I believe. Sir, Puranik sir, what's your view, sir, from the EGM perspective?
Unfortunately, the progress on expert group has been slow in the last 1 year, and we'll have to reinvigorate the group. And one of the tasks with Yasmin was to collect the various test batteries which have been developed, may be published, may not be published in Indian scenario. We have to pick up the thread once again.
Yeah, I completely understand that, sir, because we never thought of all this pandemic related and especially the restrictions on our mobility and collecting the information from the available resources. That has been actually kind of a real burden or hindrance to our ongoing activity. But time will change, and I am optimistic about it. Okay, yeah. So that's it from me, Sonar, about that particular query.
Dr. Sunil, would you want to add something?
Yeah, hi. This is regarding the availability of tests. The major issue with this particular aspect is that most of the test materials were developed as part of the either the dissertations or the research projects in many institutions, and because they are under the academic activities of the institutions and under the universities, to use it commercially or to make it available for outsiders, we might have to contact all the institutions and take their approvals in order to continue with these kind of activities. But definitely, I think from SIG Clinical Physiology of Indian Speech and Hearing Association, and also from Indian Academy of Neurology, we will try to make an attempt to contact all the institutions to get a preliminary approval to get the details of all the test materials what were developed in the field of not only aphasia but the neurocommunication disorders like dementia, TBA or RSD or any related things, and we will seek their permission to keep it with the open access, and maybe we may request any of the journal to have the publication of all these series of articles with adequate credentials to the author, so that way the authors also will be fine and also the institutions. So maybe this we will keep it in mind to have this kind of plans in future. Very soon we will be looking into the possibilities.
Thank you so much for the input.
Thank you,
I would
Ravi.
like to add here importantly that we need to have the Pearson or the Psychocorp's important publication for the WAB and few of the test material which we do not have permission to adapt, to reproduce, to translate, and to publicly make it available. That's a recent important guideline. So majority of tests what we have adapted so far have not been able to be circulated, and we all know in aphasiology, Western aphasia battery is considered as a gold standard, though it is a typical linguistic tool. It does not check if you don't do performance quotient, then it does not check your non-verbal task. So it is important that we need to have our own developed Indianized versions in different languages, because lot of linguistic, communicative, and cognitive aspects are not tested there. So just like how we have a CAT, comprehensive aphasia test, we need to really go ahead with the bilingual versions, short versions which are easier to test and to help us understand what areas to tap in order to see that a person with aphasia with good literacy, with good cognitive communicative reserve versus someone who is not much improving versus someone who is good at some other modalities. So it is important that we need to have certain tests, and we SIG would try our best to help the members of ISHA and IFNR from that perspective. So next question to you, sir, is tool development and availability is major issue, and will you be able to tell that what is a plan for multilingual assessment tool in Indian scenario? Are you
Somewhat
aware,
similar
aware
question,
about
but I'm
something
not
like
aware
that?
about.
Dr. Gopi, would you like to comment on that?
No, I'm not.
Dr.
Can you just
Gopi,
repeat that question,
sir?
Can you just repeat, Sonar?
So what is the plan for developing multilingual assessment tool? Is there any plan? Are you aware of such material development in Indian scenario?
I am not aware of, but it will be, I would say that I would presume that that is going to be a kind of like gigantic task. Okay, one single tool that would actually cater all the purposes of many languages in the country. Means it's, though I would say like it's quite difficult, but it's not that like it is impossible. But before we think about it, I think the preliminary steps or the early steps can be done, such as compiling the available tools and making it available to the like clinicians and researchers alike. Because if it is for the non-commercial purposes, for example, for the academic and clinical training purposes, there should not be any barrier for just sharing the materials. If I have developed a test material, if a student, because I have shared it personally, I have shared it. I am sure many of us must have done that. Shared the test materials that are developed as part of like dissertations or maybe the other project related work for their clinical purpose. I know that they're going to use it for the academic purpose, and it is not for the commercial purpose that they're going to use it. So we should not feel no, we shall not feel that no, I shall not share or we shall not share our resources with others. The more when others use my material, I get more satisfied, and that's the way we shall, as professionals, we shall think. And provided they also give the due credit to its own developers, and that's how you show your presence in the field. It's not that you develop a material and you use it only throughout your lifetime or our lifetime. It's not so. When I develop a material, or myself and my student develop a material, and when it is serving the purpose of others, and when others use it and give the credit to us, I think that makes the life more meaningful, professional life more meaningful, I would say. I think if we slightly change our mindset, I think we can see a big sea change in our profession. But the multilingual, this one is even in my understanding, there's currently no attempt. But I fear that it's going to be a gigantic task, because there are very many factors to deal with when we even dream about a multilingual, one single multilingual test to cater the entire languages of the country.
Yes, true. So there's a question from Miss Harita. Can we purchase HACCP and Indore aphasia battery? How could we get it? So can you please comment on that?
I can share it by email. I can share it by I can share it by email.
Okay.
I will share the email link.
Sure, sir. So we will put it in the
please share my
yes, I will do that.
Maybe Sonal, can I just add, just give a suggestion in this forum? Maybe we can actually think of creating a drive, a cloud repository, wherein all those who are willing to share the material that they have developed in the past, or along with as part of maybe as a student, or maybe as a teacher or faculty along with their students, if they don't have any issues to share that, why not putting it all together in one single location and spread the link to others? Yes, we can, I think of that.
I have two links ready. One is for HACCP and other is for LEAP questionnaire, the language assessment questionnaire. So they are Hindi version and both are web applications. They are ready and I will be sharing the link.
Thank you so much for that.
What I was mentioning, sir, even the paper and pencil based tests that are that can be used by others, if you can put everything in something like a Google Drive in a cloud location, so that it can become a one-stop shop for the clinicians and researchers to first look for the available material.
I will make it available on. I will make it available on cloud.
Yes, sir. We can do that actually.
Sonal, you can make a note of that.
That will be really helpful. So in 2 months, we are going to publish a test. It's a instrument to assess communicative effectiveness. Dr. Medha Karbhari, our pioneering aphasiologist, SLP from Aliyawarjang. She was she's honorary guest faculty with Bharati Vidyapith, and she was ex-HOD of AYJ. So we have developed a nice test, which we have studied from principle of CADL, FACS, and then modified accordingly. So that would be available in public domain so that you can understand the change in performance, pre-therapy, mid-therapy, and post-therapy. What are the aspects in bilingual aphasias in neurocommunication? That would be helpful. In just a month or two, we would be able to put it there. So thank you for the good question. May I have some other question? Yes. Many patients post-stroke are admitted to hospital only for few days. Today's talk gives a detailed idea about quick bedside examination. What should be the plan of action for such patients in terms of management during their short hospital stay? Ms. Chanchal Chaudhary, thanks for asking some relevant and very important question. So could you answer this?
Yeah, during acute stage, of course, our primary attention is on stabilizing the condition of the patient. But the role of SLP starts from the day one. Initially, it is part of the very brief assessment that tells you whether the patient is improving over a period of few days or not. It also tells you the overall severity of speech and communication deficit. That is important because the needs of a person with aphasia in acute stage for communication purpose, to communicate with nurses, to communicate with doctors, to communicate with family members, have to be understood by the caregivers. If the caregivers are not cognizant about the patient's disability in the acute stage, they will not be able to pay respect to the wishes and desires and communication intent of the person with aphasia. So some brief assessment is important. The therapy may not start in the very acute stage, except we can use AAC, some augmentative modes of communication can be used in the very acute stage. Once the patient becomes stabilized, it is a bit controversial whether it should be 2 week or 4 week or 8 week. When should we do a more formal assessment of speech and function and more detailed planning about the speech therapy and will start maybe beyond 1 month.
Next question is, in what public domain test would be available? So Ms. Mitali, we will try our best to make it open access if the publisher and the author who have developed has not having any difficulty. And if there is a way that authors want to make some remuneration honorarium out of it, then it would be available to be purchased from the authors. We will try to put it repository there. So Ms. Rachna Panikar is asking, have you seen any difference in clinical presentations among persons acquiring stroke secondary to COVID? Please share any relevant experience. Stroke aphasia in COVID-19 infection. So may I have your expert opinion on that?
I have not seen patients in COVID situation. I was isolating myself, so I was not going out, and even my clinic was closed. But whatever I have read and whatever I have heard from my colleagues, the stroke in COVID has been slightly different. It has been more florid. It has been pathologically more varied, with a lot of extensive thrombosis in the vasculature, and it has been disregarding the classical anatomical boundaries of MCA, ACA, PCA, anterior branch, posterior branch. So the classical aphasia syndromes, which are actually nothing but an artifact of arterial anatomical deltoid, those were not properly seen in COVID related stroke patients. But I have personally no experience.
I wanted to comment on that. I see a lot of patients with COVID in the infection status and then post-COVID also. Mostly GBS variant we are seeing. If they are having Miller-Fisher, then only there is a speech and swallowing deficits. However, post-COVID, if they are intubated and they are making good progress, they are requiring good amount of voice and swallowing care. Now coming to the dominant hemisphere stroke, many of them are having cognitive impairment, which is more of executive functions, and the cognitive tests are supposed to be implied there. So we had a couple of patients who actually had fungal infection, and they had been late managed, have failed to get early treatment. Otherwise, such COVID-19 based stroke and the aphasias are very less. Incidence prevalence is reported. Last question of the panel would be, we are running short of time. Miss Aruna Prabhu is asking, standardized test for Indian scenario is complex. In meanwhile, what is the opinion on trying to make ad hoc test based on the informed guidelines in a sound theory? Professor Puranik, sir?
Yeah, you all can make your own ad hoc test based on the principles which have been given today. So you know these are the headings and subheadings under which you are supposed to assess a person with aphasia. Of course, there will be errors in selection of stimuli by a person who is not aware about the psychometric principles of selection. However, the ad hoc tests are not published, they are not available. They are the ones which are impromptu, they are the ones which are idiosyncratic, which have been developed in different institutions by some senior clinician in their own whim. They are okay, but certainly they are not a substitute. They are okay if you are not interested in research, if not interested in detailed therapy, but just a brief assessment, then you can create your own ad hoc test following the principles which were given today.
Dr. Gopi, you want to comment on that?
Sorry. Yeah. Can you just repeat that question once for me?
So, opinion on trying to make ad hoc tests available on informed guideline based on the sound theory.
Yeah, see, basically, I would say that, like, means we all know the very ground fact that, like, we do not have sufficient valid assessment tools in our country for the many languages that we have. But I would say that, like, if we are insightful clinicians, we don't miss. I would say for the better clinical management of the client, even you can survive even without the so-called well-formulated, highly valid, and highly a popular test material. That's where, like, I think Dr. Puranik also was mentioning that if you know how to deal with the client, and you would certainly get the right questions at the right time, what to ask and how to elicit the question, and we would be able to frame the questions in such a way that we will know what exactly is the status of the client. I would say that that's something like a clinical insight that we develop with some time, with some exposure, all that. And I personally know that in many of the institutions, like, the exposure of the SLPs to the aphasia patients is actually quite limited. But I understand that. So even I never had that kind of an exposure during my academic training years. It's only after I came to Manipal that, I developed that interest and I got the opportunity to do that. But in any field, no matter whether you're in aphasiology or in any other fields of speech language pathology, we will gradually develop the clinical insight. And at that time, you would find that, or one would find, not you, me and you, would find that what the questions that we ask is more relevant and more information fetching than what is the so-called, the sometimes a bit awkward questions printed in the standard test material. Knowing the clinician, knowing the clients and their needs is what should be driving a real clinician. I am saying this because this is clinical aphasiology, platform. That's why. So, what I wanted to say is that we shall not stop ourselves if we do not have access to a standard test material. Apply your mind, learn the client, and I'm sure, you can definitely read their minds and their needs, and then you can cater better to their needs.
Wonderful comment on it, sir. Thank you so much. Here we come to the concluding session of the day. I would like to extend my thanks to the resource person, Professor Pauranik sir, for agreeing to be our esteemed speaker, and with his clinically oriented, very encouraging, motivating session today. And as a speaker, he has really tried his best. And I feel, so we are thankful to all of you, all the students who have missed learning from the clinical aspects. I have got a good take-home message from the clinical assessment session today. I thank EC Aphasiology, Dr. Gopikrishnan, Dr. Sunil for being a great support to me. I thank all the advisory board members of Isha SIG Aphasiology. I thank Isha EC Chair, Dr. Neeraj, for being very supportive and very encouraging. I thank President Isha, Professor Krishna sir, for always being there to help, encourage and motivate us so that we help patients, their caregivers and our profession to grow and much more to go for a super specialized way ahead. I thank all the attenders that in the busy evenings of pandemic time, with all the restrictions, you had come and joined this enlightening session. I'm sure you would go ahead and share your knowledge with your students, with your faculty, with your colleagues, and make sure that you educate people that it is important that communication is the key for a successful quality of life. So on this day of Doctor's Day, Agriculture Day, and the CA Day, I would say health is wealth, and emotion and your mental health, communication plays an important role. So do help your persons with aphasia, the caregivers, conversation partner is very important, training is very important. So make sure that we rightly educate ourselves, we get trained, we have adequate tools and we update ourselves. Our field is very vast, we need to really update every time. Patients are very challenging, we need to really understand the client-centered protocol, and this would be a key message that communication and cognition both matters. Thank you so much all. Jai Hind.
Sonal, just
Thank
one,
you very much.
I said you said, I know it's Jai Hind, we shouldn't be continuing that, but one final thing, sir, Pauranik sir, thank you very much. And Sonal, what I want to say is that the unanswered questions, please make a note and we shall respond to them in writing. Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Okay, bye.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you all, thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you all.
Ma'am, I can send the unanswered questions to you if there are any.
Yeah, I don't think so. We have any unanswered question now. They all want material, and we would try our best to keep it in a public domain. And we will try to share with all the link of HACCP and French aphasia screening developed. Yes, sir.
Okay.
I think we can conclude.
Okay, ma'am.
Can wind up. Yes. Thank you.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Amulya.
Thank you, ma'am. And sorry for the inconvenience caused initially. My system switched off suddenly, so I had to re-log in with a different system.
You are the backbone of all these activities, and I'm really thankful. I'm not so good at taking things.
My pleasure, ma'am. Okay.
Thank you.
See you.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Stay safe. Bye-bye.